Hey everybody, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but welcome to 2024. And what we're going to do today is take a look at a feature that's been around in Photoshop for well over 25 years called Threshold, which allows me to do something like this as a standard image and change it to look like this. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Again, if you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist and to push ourselves out of our comfort zone to do some really cool creative things. Okay, before we jump into today's program, and that is using a feature that's been around for well over 25 years to come up with a very unique style and look. Things are really going to be changing this year in 2024 when it comes to photography and photo art. Some of it's going to be very controversial, and I'll be talking about some of that stuff this coming month in January. All right, let's get to our program and let's get started. Here I am in Photoshop, and that is an image I'm going to work on. And by the way, the technique I'm going to share with you is going to work with portrait photography, wildlife, boudoir. Doesn't matter what category of photography that you are in. This is a really cool technique. So I've been doing this for years. It's a feature that's been around for a long time, and it just has that really cool, unique look and style. And again, it's very subjective, but start with an image. We're just going to start with this one, little fashion portrait of a aviator. And I'm going to duplicate the layer by just doing Control J or Command J on a Mac. So I can do a quick before and after here. And then I'm going to do is, or I should say what I'm going to do is change this to a smart object layer. So to do that, you don't right mouse click on the thumbnail. If you do that, what will happen is you won't see the feature there to convert this to a smart object layer. If you go to the gray area out here, outside there, and do a right mouse click, you go down a little over halfway down, it says convert to smart object. That's what I'm going to choose. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to apply a couple of features here non-destructively, and I get to go back and change my mind later. If I don't do this, whatever I do, it puts it permanently into that file, or onto that layer, I should say. So it is a smart object layer, which allows me to go back, and I'll share some of that with you and how I might change that down the road if I change my mind on the settings. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is use a feature that's been around for well over 25 years, if not longer, and that's called Threshold. And you will find that under the Image drop-down menu here in Photoshop. So I'm going to go to the Image drop-down menu, go to Adjustments, and on the Flyout menu here, if I go about, almost halfway down, you'll see the feature there called Threshold. Now, when you choose this, it converts everything to black and white pixels. There's no gray. And you'll notice that the threshold here is set to 128, and that's the mid-range. We have a total range of 256, 0 to 255. The 0 actually counts as 1, so it's really 256 shades. And basically, it just means if I take this spot right here, and everything you see here on the left, if I move this to the left, more white is coming in, which means the pixels to the right of this, I'm saying anything that's over the threshold of 31, make it white. Anything to the left of that, make it black. If I move this all the way to the left, everything is now white. If I go the opposite direction and move it all the way to the right, as you see me doing this, more and more information is turning black. In other words, this area here is my whites. This area here is my black. So I have a lot more black than I do whites. If I move this all the way to the right, you can see how that all the white disappears. I'm 100% black. So what I want to do is I'm going to play with this. I'm looking at her face. And as I'm making a judgment call here, and again, this is very subjective, I'm looking at her cheek here on the left side. And what I want to do is almost like a Norman, not a Norman Rockwell, I'm sorry, but almost like a Rembrandt type look where the highlight is that little triangle in her cheek right there. And again, very subjective, but that's what That's what I'm going to choose right there. And again, because it's a smart object layer, I can always go back by double clicking on this under threshold there, and then go back and make my adjustments if I want to change that. So this is not permanent. So I'm going to come back about, say, right there again, and click on OK. Now, after that's done, I'm going to apply a blending mode here of soft light. Now, you could do overlay if you want it to be stronger, but I like soft light, so that's just, again, personal preference. It's not right or wrong. It's the look you're trying to go for. And with that selected, now I don't like this jaggedness over there, and that's fine because we're going to add a filter to this non-destructively, and it will be the Gaussian blur. So I'm going to go to Filter drop-down menu in Photoshop. Right here is the drop-down menu. And I'm going to, as we drop down here, we're going to go to Filter, Blurs, and we're going to come down to Gaussian Blur. And again, I can adjust this based on my needs, and I can always go back and change it because it's being done and applied non-destructively to a smart object layer. So I'm going to move the radius here of the blur to the right till I get the look that I'm looking for. So notice that how this is softening this up, and sort of like that, about 30 pixels of the blur. And again, if I move this further, it adjusts it. I think that's just too much. I'm going to come back to about 30 or close to 30 there. We'll do it about right there. Okay, so I'm going to do OK on that. And there is my before and after, before and after. I'm just holding down the Alt key. That would be Option on a Mac and clicking on the eyeball of the layer I started with. So that was my before. And then that is my after. Now, again, after this is totally up to you. You can play with this. You can say, hey, I want to pull the opacity of this down a bit. I mean, that's a possibility. So there's, before and after. I'm going to turn that on and off. That's another way of doing it. Or I like 100%. I might go back here and say, let's change the tonal range of this a little bit, and let's pull up color balance and maybe add some color tone to this. And I'm going to pull in a little bit more cyan into this image, and I'll add a little bit more blue to it. And again, very subjective. This is before and after applying the color grade. And this is, this is all up to you. You can get very experimental with this. You can say, oh, I want to add more hue and saturation to this, or maybe pull it out. The key thing is you're starting with a threshold on your smart object layer. That's a big deal. And again, this feature's been around for many, many years. The only thing I couldn't do is when I applied these other techniques, it would be permanent because years ago, we did not have a smart object layer. Now that we have had that for years, I can go back there, double click on threshold, open this up, make my adjustment. If I want to expand that a little bit more or less, I mean, it's totally up to me. I'll just change that a little bit so it expands it more, and there we go. There's my adjustment. If I want to play with the Gaussian blur and pull that blur down a bit, I could do that. And then there's my before and after. So a lot of changes in that. Again, it's a stylized look. You may not like that because it's very subjective. I'm making the choices based on my needs. And again, play with this. But it's just another technique that we could use to stylize an image. So here's what I'd like you to do. Number one is, obviously, if you've learned something, if you could do me a favor to help spread the word on my channel, that is like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. The next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. But number two, I want you to get that camera out. Please get that camera out and take a body of work and take some shots and then try this technique and see what you come up with as a really cool style, and maybe apply that style consistently to a body of work and make it your unique look and style by using this technique. All right, so with that out of the way, again, until next time, see ya.